Everyone thought it was just going to be another routine Tuesday at the Grayson Martial Arts Academy. The mats were clean, the students were loud, and the air reeked of sweat and overconfidence. But no one could have predicted what was about to happen. No one expected that the quietest woman in the room, someone they'd laughed at for weeks, would make a black belt scream for mercy in less than 14 seconds. What happened that day changed the dynamic of the entire dojo and left the local police force stunned. You'll want to hear every second of what happened, because this wasn't just about jiu-jitsu. This was about pride, pain, and a hidden past nobody saw coming. Her name was Emma Brooks. She was soft-spoken, average height, mid-30s, and wore secondhand workout clothes to class. Compared to the lean, muscular guys who strutted around in expensive gi uniforms, Emma looked out of place, like someone who accidentally walked into the wrong room but didn't have the courage to walk back out. That's exactly how the others treated her. She wasn't just overlooked, she was ridiculed. Nicknamed Soccer Mom by some of the younger students, they'd whisper jokes behind her back, snit her when she stumbled, and roll their eyes when the instructor paired her with one of them for drills. The worst offender was Bryce Carter. A decorated black belt, former high school wrestling champ, and self-proclaimed alpha, Bryce loved to humiliate new students, especially those he didn't think belonged. Emma became his favorite target. Every time she hesitated, Bryce was there with a comment. "This isn't ballet class," he said once, loud enough for everyone to hear. Laughter erupted across the room. Emma didn't respond. She just nodded, adjusted her belt, and kept going. What nobody knew was that Emma had a past. Not the kind of past you see on Facebook or hear in small talk. This was a deeply buried part of her life she had walked away from years ago, a part she never expected to return to. But sometimes life has other plans. It started 2 months ago when Emma quietly enrolled in the beginner's class. She never bragged, never corrected anyone. She let the younger students manhandle her during sparring, even when she clearly had the skill to counter. To them, she looked clumsy, but to the assistant instructor, Marcus, who had been trained to watch body mechanics, it didn't add up. Her movements weren't random. They were restrained. She moved like someone who knew what to do but was deliberately holding back. He mentioned it once to Coach Ramirez, the head instructor, but Ramirez shrugged. "Maybe she used to dance," he joked. Then came the promotion day. Every 3 months, the dojo held a grading session to assess who would move up in rank. Bryce, of course, was leading the demo for the black belts. Coach Ramirez liked to showcase his strongest students. Bryce loved the spotlight. That day, after performing a flashy throw, he grabbed the mic and said, "We've got time for one more. Let's have some fun. How about a volunteer?" He scanned the crowd, eyes narrowing. On Emma. "You," he smirked. "Come on, show us what you've learned, soccer mom." Everyone chuckled. Emma looked hesitant. Coach Ramirez raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Bryce was already bouncing on his feet, loosening his shoulders, cocky as ever. Emma stepped forward slowly, her face unreadable. She bowed. Bryce bowed. The timer started. What happened next was so fast, half the room didn't even realize what they'd seen. 14 seconds later, Bryce was face down on the mat, arm pinned behind his back, tapping furiously. The room went silent. Someone dropped a water bottle. Coach Ramirez didn't blink. And Emma just stood up calmly, bowed again, and walked back to her corner. For a full minute, no one moved. Bryce stayed on the mat, his pride shattered more than any joint could be. The silence was deafening. Even the most immature students, those who had once mocked Emma without restraint, didn't know how to react. She hadn't just won, she had dominated. Clean technique, perfect control, zero aggression. She had dismantled Bryce like a professional technician taking apart a faulty machine. When he finally got up, his face was red not just from the physical pressure, but from the raw humiliation. He didn't speak. He couldn't. Coach Ramirez approached Emma after class. His tone had changed. He wasn't smiling. "You've trained before," he said plainly, not as a question. Emma gave a small nod. "A long time ago. I wasn't sure I still had it." Ramirez folded his arms. That wasn't just having it. You ran through a black belt like it was a drill. She didn't answer. She simply bowed slightly and left, her gym bag slung over her shoulder like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Later that evening, a quiet knock came on the door of Marcus's office, the assistant instructor who had been quietly observing Emma for weeks. She stepped in, hesitated, then spoke in a low voice. "I need to tell you something," she said. What followed was a confession that made Marcus sit upright in disbelief. Emma had been a part of a competitive grappling circuit nearly 10 years earlier. Under her maiden name, Emma Price, she had competed internationally until one match in Chicago ended with her opponent severely injured and a scandal surrounding whether her move had been too aggressive. Though cleared by the commission, the emotional toll was too much. She disappeared from the sport entirely. No one had heard from her since. She changed cities, changed her name, and started a quiet life far from the mats, until one day, walking past Grayson Academy, she saw a flyer for beginner classes. Something in her stirred. She hadn't intended to reveal herself. She didn't want attention or admiration, but the constant bullying, the mocking, Bryce's arrogance, it triggered something in her she thought had been buried. She told Marcus she didn't want trouble, but she also didn't want to be treated like she was less than what she was. Marcus listened carefully. He wasn't just a coach. He also worked part-time with the local sheriff's department on self-defense programs, and what Emma had just said jogged something in his memory. The next morning, Marcus pulled an old report, a case file from years back involving a woman named Emma Price who had been mentioned in an unrelated investigation, not as a suspect, but as a witness to a break-in at a training camp. That incident had never been solved. Equipment had gone missing, and one of the instructors at the time was quietly dismissed for suspected illegal fight arrangements. The only thing left behind had been a blurry camera still, a woman walking out of the back door, her face partially obscured, but her stance unmistakable. Calm, balanced, composed like a fighter in control. He looked at Emma differently after that. Later that week, word of Bryce's defeat spread far beyond the walls of the dojo. The video, captured by a student who was filming for social media, made its way online. It went viral overnight. The caption read, "Mom takes down black belt in 14 seconds." By morning, it had 500,000 views. Comments poured in. Most praised her. Some doubted it was real. A few even tried to find her real identity. Emma didn't speak to anyone about it. She kept coming to class, kept training, kept quiet. But what she didn't know was that someone from her past had seen the video, and they were on their way to find her. Detective Alan Ridge wasn't the kind of man who wasted time on viral videos. But when his partner forwarded him the clip with the message, "Is this the Emma Price?" he clicked it out of pure instinct. As he watched the footage of a woman dismantling a black belt in seconds, his eyes narrowed. The posture, the control, the calm precision, it was unmistakable. It had been nearly a decade, but Ridge never forgot the woman who vanished right after his case collapsed. Back then, he had been investigating illegal underground matches camouflaged as advanced training seminars. He had gotten close. Too close, and the main suspect, a former martial arts coach named Donovan Slate, had disappeared just as the case went cold. The last person seen with him? Emma Price. He remembered her interview, soft-spoken but alert. She had told them Slate left the gym early that night, and she had nothing to do with the missing equipment. But Ridge always felt she knew more. He just couldn't prove it. After the investigation hit a dead end, she disappeared from the fight circuit. And now, almost 10 years later, she was back and submitting a man twice her size in front of a cheering crowd. Ridge made a few calls. He confirmed the dojo's name, cross-checked Emma Brooks with public records, and within 2 hours, he was on the road to Grayson Academy. He didn't tell his captain. This wasn't official, not yet. But something about it didn't sit right. People like Donovan Slate didn't just vanish. They laid low. They waited. And if Emma was back, Ridge worried Slate might not be far behind. At the dojo, classes were just wrapping up when Ridge arrived. He didn't go inside right away. He watched from across the street, his eyes trained on the door.
Sure enough, a few minutes later, Emma stepped out. She looked tired but peaceful, gym bag over her shoulder, earbuds in, walking to a modest sedan. He approached casually, hands in his pockets. "Emma Price?" She froze, turned slowly. Her eyes widened slightly. "It's Brooks now. Detective Ridge. I remember you." He didn't push, not at first. He just asked if they could talk. She hesitated, then nodded. They sat in a nearby coffee shop, both of them aware that this wasn't just small talk. Ridge leaned in. "I saw what you did. That takedown wasn't beginner's luck. You've been hiding for years, Emma, and you've been quiet about what happened the night Slate disappeared." Emma stirred her coffee slowly. "I didn't hide. I left. There's a difference." Ridge waited. Silence stretched between them like a wire ready to snap. Finally, she sighed. Donovan Slate was training fighters off the books, unlicensed. Some of them were barely 18. He was taking cuts from side bets, forcing people into matches they weren't ready for. "I found out. I confronted him." Her voice dropped. "He didn't take it well." Ridge leaned forward. "What happened that night?" Emma looked him dead in the eyes. "I walked into the gym and saw him loading duffel bags into a van. I knew it wasn't just gear. He was running. I tried to stop him. He pushed me. I put him down. Hard. He didn't get up for a while." She paused. "When I left, he was still breathing. I told myself someone would find him, but the next morning, he was gone." Ridge sat back. This was more than he expected. He believed her, but the question remained. Where had Slate gone? And why now, after all these years, was Emma suddenly back on the mat? What neither of them knew was that Slate wasn't just alive, he was watching that viral video too, and he recognized her instantly.
Donovan Slate hadn't left the fight world. He'd just changed his face within it. After disappearing from the official circuits, he slipped into the underbelly of illegal matches and backyard brawls. He had scars now, both physical and otherwise, and a bitter hatred for the woman who had ruined everything. For years, he believed she'd ratted him out. When nothing came of it, he assumed she was protecting herself. Either way, she'd gotten away clean, and he hadn't. The viral video triggered something he hadn't felt in years: humiliation and anger. The moment he saw Emma's calm, surgical takedown of the black belt, he knew she hadn't lost a step. She hadn't disappeared. She'd just waited. But for what? To come back into the light? To fight again? Or to lure him out? He wasn't going to wait to find out. 3 nights later, the dojo was nearly empty. Only a few students stayed behind for extra drilling. Emma was cleaning the mat by herself, headphones in, moving methodically, when the door creaked open. At first, she didn't look up. She assumed it was Marcus or Coach Ramirez. But the footsteps were wrong. Heavy. Confident. Familiar in a way that made her skin crawl. She turned and saw him. Time stopped. Slate looked older. Harder but unmistakable. A long scar split the left side of his jaw, and his eyes were cold as stone. "You've got quite the fan base now," he said, voice low. Emma didn't speak. Her hands dropped the mop. Her body shifted, barely, but just enough to prepare. "What do you want?" she asked. Slate stepped onto the mat. "Closure," he said simply. "You made me run. You made me a ghost. Now I'm giving you a chance to finish it. One last match. Here. Just us." Emma exhaled slowly. "I'm not that person anymore." He smiled cruelly. "Then you'll lose." In the days that followed, the story spread beyond the dojo. Local news picked it up, branding Emma the silent black belt, though she never claimed the title.
Her face was blurred in most reports at her request, but those who had seen what happened that night never forgot. The man who had haunted her past was now behind bars, and the whispers of her old identity began to fade into something else: respect. Coach Ramirez, once skeptical, pulled her aside after class one evening. "You saved that boy," he said, referring to a new student who had almost signed up for an unsanctioned underground fight weeks earlier, unknowingly through a recruiter connected to Slate's network. "You didn't just defend yourself. You shut the door on a pipeline we didn't even know existed." Emma didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence had become her strength. Bryce, humbled but growing, approached her too. His tone was sincere. "I judged you," he admitted, "and you taught me more in 14 seconds than I've learned in 4 years. Emma gave a small nod and offered to drill with him that afternoon. From then on, no one in the dojo called her Soccer Mom again. Detective Ridge finalized his report, but he kept Emma's full story off the record. "You don't owe anyone your pain," he told her. "You've paid enough." He encouraged her to consider teaching, even offered a spot in the department's youth self-defense program. "You've got something kids need: calm, clarity, and truth." Emma didn't answer right away, but a week later, she showed up to the police community center with a worn-out duffel bag and a quiet smile. She didn't need a title. She didn't need recognition. She had reclaimed something far more powerful: herself. The dojo kept training. Life moved forward, but the mats held her story now. And whenever a new student doubted themselves, Coach Ramirez would point to a framed photo hanging near the entrance. Emma, standing quietly with her hands behind her back, watching over the class. There was no caption, no belt color listed, just the image of a woman who refused to stay broken. And now, if you've made it this far, thank you. You've just witnessed more than a fight story. You've witnessed a journey. A quiet woman, mocked and underestimated, stood up not just to a bully, but to her own past, and rewrote everything they thought they knew about her. If this story moved you, even just a little, we'd love your support. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more powerful, real, and inspiring cases like this, and don't forget to tap the bell icon so you never miss an upload. There are many more stories like Emma's, stories of quiet strength, hidden courage, and unexpected triumphs. Until next time, stay strong, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one with the loudest victory.